The sun was slowly rising over the wide plains of the southwest, spreading soft orange light across the dry grass and quiet hills. It was another peaceful morning for Cole Harding, a young cowboy who spent most of his days working on open land. Cole enjoyed simple routines, feeding the horses, checking the fences, and riding across the ranch to make sure everything was in order. He liked the silence of the early day, when the world felt cool and calm before the stronger heat arrived. That morning, he saddled his horse, Dusty, and rode toward the far edge of the ranch, where a small river once used to flow. The river had dried up weeks ago, but Cole still checked the area, in case any animals came looking for water. As he reached the empty riverbed, Dusty suddenly slowed down and raised his ears. Cole gently tugged on the reins and looked around. At first, he saw nothing unusual, just scattered rocks, dry soil, and tall bushes gently moving with the wind. But then he noticed something small, lying near a cluster of bushes. It looked like a bundle of cloth or maybe a lost blanket someone had dropped. Curious, Cole guided Dusty closer. He stepped down from his horse and walked quietly toward the spot. And then, he froze. It wasn't a blanket at all. It was a child. A young girl, no older than 9 or 10, lay on the ground. She looked tired and frightened, her hair messy and her clothes dusty as if she had been walking for days. Cole's heart tightened. He had never seen a child out here alone. The nearest town was well over an hour away, and there was no reason for any child to wander in such a lonely place. He knelt carefully beside her. "Hey there," he said softly, hoping not to scare her. "Can you hear me?" The girl opened her eyes just a little. They were deep, dark, and full of fear. She tried to sit up, but didn't have the strength. Cole quickly reached out to support her, giving her space and moving slowly so she wouldn't feel threatened. "It's okay," he said in a gentle voice. "You're safe now." The girl whispered something, but the words were faint, almost lost in the breeze. Cole leaned closer to listen. She repeated the sound again, and this time, he understood it wasn't English. Cole realized she was Apache. He had seen Apache families before during supply trips and peaceful gatherings, but he had never spoken directly with them. Many settlers didn't understand the Apache people, and misunderstandings often caused unnecessary fear. But Cole never believed stories that painted others as dangerous without reason. Right now, she wasn't dangerous. She was just a scared child. He offered her his canteen. "Here, drink a little. Not too fast." She hesitated but then took a few small sips. Her hands trembled as she held the canteen. Cole could see her lips were cracked and dry. She must have been alone for a very long time. "What happened to you?" he asked softly, knowing she might not understand. "Where are your people?" The girl looked around in confusion, as if searching for something or someone, but there was no one in sight. She shook her head slowly. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. Cole didn't know much about her language, but pain and fear needed no translation. He looked at the sky. The day would soon grow hot, and she wouldn't last long out here without help. He made a decision, one that felt natural and right. "I'm going to take you somewhere safe," he said. "People I trust. They'll help." The girl watched him carefully. She still didn't speak, but she didn't pull away as he lifted her gently in his arms. She was light, too light, as if she hadn't eaten properly in days. Cole placed her on Dusty, holding her steady as he climbed up behind her. They rode slowly toward the ranch owned by Martha and Ben Weaver, an older couple who had known Cole since he was a boy. They were kind-hearted and understanding people, the sort who wouldn't question offering help to a child in distress. Along the way, Cole kept talking to the girl in a calm voice, just so she wouldn't feel alone. "You're going to be fine," he said. "We'll get you food and water. No one will hurt you." Every now and then, she glanced back at him, studying his face, as if trying to decide whether she could trust him. Something in her eyes, uncertainty mixed with hope, made Cole feel determined to protect her no matter what. When they arrived at the Weavers' small house, Martha came out to greet them. Her smile faded the moment she saw the girl leaning weakly against Cole. "Oh dear," she whispered, rushing forward. "What happened to her?" I found her by the riverbed, Cole explained. Martha didn't hesitate. Bring her inside. They brought the girl into the warm, welcoming kitchen. Martha prepared a bowl of soup, while Ben fetched a clean blanket. Cole helped the girl sit on a chair. She looked around nervously, unfamiliar with the surroundings, but Martha's kind expression seemed to calm her a little. Would you like something warm to eat? Martha asked gently, pointing to the bowl. The girl nodded. She took the spoon slowly, carefully tasting the soup as if unsure if it was safe. But after the first sip, she began eating bit by bit, her eyes softening with relief. Ben examined the small cuts on her arms, nothing serious, just signs of rough travel. Poor thing, he murmured. She must have been separated from her family. Cole nodded. She hasn't said much, only a few words I didn't understand. Martha noticed the girl looking at Cole quietly. She trusts you, she said softly. Maybe she feels safe with you. Over the next few hours, the girl regained some strength. She didn't speak English, but she understood simple gestures. When Cole pointed at himself and said, "Cole," she repeated softly, "Cole." It was the first time she tried to say anything clearly. Then he pointed at her gently. "Your name." "Your name." She hesitated, then placed a hand on her chest and whispered, "Nayeli." "Nayeli," Cole repeated with a smile. "It's nice to meet you." The girl's eyes brightened for the first time. Days passed, and Nayeli slowly recovered. She still spoke very little, but she showed gratitude through small gestures, helping Martha carry water, trying to help with chores, or sitting near Cole while he worked on simple tasks. She was quiet, but observant, and she moved with a gentle grace that made Martha often say, "This child has a strong spirit." But even as Nayeli grew stronger, there was a shadow in her eyes. Sometimes at night, she would sit by the window, looking out into the darkness, as if waiting for someone who never came. Cole often wondered what she had gone through and where her family might be. He wished he could help her find them. But the land was wide and full of unknown paths, and Nayeli didn't have enough words to explain what had happened. One morning, Cole found the woven bracelet she wore on her wrist resting on the table. It was delicate, made of small threads, braided with skill. Nayeli was nowhere to be found. She had disappeared quietly, leaving no footprints, no sign of struggle, only the bracelet. Cole searched the area for hours, calling her name, but she was gone. He hoped she had found her people again, that she had made it home safely. Even after many years passed, Cole kept the bracelet carefully stored. Whenever he saw it, he remembered the small girl he had once protected, the girl who had trusted him in her most difficult moment, and he always wondered where life had taken her. For many years after Nayeli disappeared, Cole Harding lived a steady and quiet life. He continued working on the ranch, raising horses, fixing fences, and helping neighbors whenever they needed an extra hand. He grew from a young cowboy into a man with a calm mind and a steady heart. People trusted him because he never spoke harshly and never turned away from someone who needed help. But even as time passed, Cole never forgot the little Apache girl he once found near the dry riverbed. He often remembered the way she had looked at him with cautious hope, how she whispered her name, and how she quietly helped around the house before vanishing as silently as she had arrived. Sometimes, late at night, he would take out the small woven bracelet she left behind and wonder if she was safe. He hoped she had found her family, that she was living somewhere peaceful and happy. Life on the frontier, however, was not always easy. As more settlers arrived, the land grew crowded, and misunderstandings between different groups of people sometimes created tension. Cole stayed away from conflict, choosing patience over anger. He believed that most people were good at heart, even when they acted out of fear or confusion. Across the region, people spoke about changes happening in the Apache communities as well. Some said they were gathering their families closer, protecting their traditions, and guiding their young ones with renewed care. Others said they had a leader who was wise beyond her years, someone who worked to keep her people safe without causing trouble for nearby towns. Cole often heard these stories while sitting at the small cafe in town, sipping warm coffee while listening quietly to passing travelers. "Have you heard about that new Apache leader?" one man said one afternoon. "They say she's young but strong in her thinking." Another replied, "Strong how? Strong in words? Strong in planning? I heard she avoids any harm to others." Even when she's challenged, Cole listened, but he never joined the conversation. He didn't like rumors, especially those that created fear. People tended to repeat things they didn't fully understand, but one detail caught his attention every time. Some travelers mentioned the leader's name spoken softly, with a kind of respect. Nayeli. Cole felt a familiar flutter in his chest whenever he heard it. Could it be the same girl? The one he rescued 15 years earlier? The memory of her small voice saying her name returned to him, but he quickly reminded himself that names could repeat. The world was big, and many people carried similar names. Still, the thought lingered in a quiet corner of his mind. As months turned into years, the region experienced moments of peace mixed with days of uncertainty. Some outlaws moved through the land, causing trouble in both towns and tribal areas. They stole supplies, frightened travelers, and created confusion that made people blame one another. Cole tried to help whenever he could, but he also knew that not every problem could be solved by one person alone. What caught Cole's attention most was how the Apache communities stayed calm during these troubling times. Instead of reacting with anger, they moved wisely, organizing their homes and guiding their youth to stay away from harmful places. People who lived near their land often said they felt safe knowing the Apache leader focused on protecting everyone, not just her own people. One morning, while Cole was loading hay onto a wagon, a neighbor named Mr. Dalton rode by and stopped to speak with him. "Cole, you hear the latest news?" he asked, lowering his voice. Cole wiped his hands on his jeans. "Depends on what you're talking about. That Apache leader. Folks say she has brought her people together better than anyone before her. They say she speaks gently but firmly, and everyone listens." Cole nodded politely. He didn't respond right away because he sensed Mr. Dalton had more to say. "They call her Nayeli," Dalton added. Cole paused. "Nayeli. That name's familiar to many," he replied calmly. Dalton shrugged. "Maybe so, but the way people talk about her sounds like she's different. Special. Intelligent." Cole nodded again, but inwardly, a small spark of hope grew. Could a little girl who once whispered softly and helped Martha with chores become a respected leader? Could a child who stared at the night sky searching for home become someone her whole community trusted? The idea felt unbelievable, but not impossible. Later that afternoon, as Cole repaired a wooden fence near the horse's pen, he caught himself thinking about the night Nayeli had disappeared. She had left quietly, without saying a single goodbye. He used to feel sad about it, wondering if she didn't trust him enough to stay. But over the years, he came to understand that her leaving was not a sign of mistrust. It was a sign of courage. She had been searching for her family, for her place in the world. If the stories were true, then perhaps she had found it. Still, Cole didn't let his thoughts grow too big. He reminded himself that life had a way of creating coincidences. Names could match, skills could develop, and stories could grow in unexpected directions. He told himself to stay grounded. But sometimes, when the evenings were quiet and he sat outside watching the stars, he felt his heart whispering that the connection might be real. As the region continued to change, more stories spread about the Apache leader. She was said to be someone who treated others fairly, someone who encouraged peace even when misunderstandings happened. She helped settle disagreements between neighboring families, made sure the young ones were educated in both tradition and kindness, and avoided unnecessary conflicts. Many settlers were surprised to hear such stories, especially when they expected trouble. But the more they learned, the more they realized that fear often came from not knowing each other. Cole admired this leader from afar, though he had never met her. Her actions reminded him of something he believed strongly. Strength didn't always come from force. It could also come from understanding, patience, and wisdom. One evening, Cole met Martha and Ben Weaver, now older, but still warm and gentle. They invited him for dinner, and after the meal, they sat outside watching the sunset. Ben looked at Cole and said, "You ever think about that girl we cared for years ago?" Cole smiled softly. "Every now and then." Martha nodded thoughtfully. She had such quiet determination in her eyes. "I always believed she would grow into someone important." Cole didn't respond, but he felt a pull in his chest. He took out the woven bracelet from his coat pocket, the same one Nayeli left behind. The threads were still strong, the pattern still clear. Martha sighed warmly. "I'm glad you kept it. It reminds me of her," Cole said softly. "Makes me hope she found where she belonged." Ben leaned forward. "Maybe she did. And maybe she's doing something great with her life." The thought stayed with Cole long after he rode home that night. He placed the bracelet back in its safe place and looked out across the quiet land. The sky was full of stars, just like the night Nayeli used to watch them through the weaver's window. Cole felt something deep inside, something that felt like the start of change. Little did he know, the peaceful life he had lived for years was about to shift in a way he could never have predicted, because the girl he once rescued, the one he thought he would never see again, was closer than he imagined. And soon, their paths would cross again in a way that would surprise the entire region. The days on the ranch passed quietly, and Cole Harding continued with his usual work, feeding the horses, tending the land, and helping neighbors whenever they called for him. Everything felt normal, just as it had for years. But deep inside he sensed that something in the region was changing. He didn't know exactly what it was, but the air felt different, as if carrying a message he could not yet understand. One warm afternoon, Cole rode out to check the north pasture. The sky was clear, and the wind moved gently through the tall grass. It was peaceful, the kind of peace Cole always appreciated. But as he reached the top of a small hill, he saw something unusual far in the distance, a thin line of dust, rising slowly, steady, controlled. Cole narrowed his eyes. Dust like that didn't come from wind, it came from movement, organized movement. He guided Dusty to a higher spot and watched carefully. The dust line grew wider, then longer, and soon he could make out shapes moving beneath it. Many riders. Dozens at least. The formation was neat, not rushed or chaotic. Whoever they were moving with purpose and discipline. Cole felt a mix of surprise and uncertainty. He wasn't alarmed, but he knew something important was happening. He turned Dusty around and headed toward town. By the time he reached the main street, word had already spread. People stood outside their shops and homes, shading their eyes with their hands, all staring toward the horizon where the dust still rose in the far distance. "They're coming this way," someone whispered. "They're organized," another said. "Not wandering. They know exactly where they're going." Cole dismounted and listened quietly. He could hear worry in the voices around him. Some people whispered guesses. Others simply watched the horizon with tight expressions, unsure what to think. Mr. Dalton approached Cole. "You saw it too?" "I did," Cole replied calmly. "It looks like a well-prepared group." Dalton nodded. "They say it might be the Apache people, the ones led by that young leader everyone talks about." Nayeli's name echoed silently in Cole's mind again, deeper this time. The townsfolk gathered near the center of town, speaking in rushed, anxious voices. Some worried that the group of riders would pass through. Others said they might be coming to talk. No one knew for sure, and uncertainty often made people uneasy. Cole stepped away from the noise and walked toward the edge of town, where he could see the approaching formation more clearly. He felt no fear, only steady curiosity and a quiet sense of connection that he didn't fully understand yet. Minutes passed. The group moved closer, revealing details one by one. Beautiful horses, riders sitting tall and calm, movements guided by signals and gentle gestures. Their presence was strong but peaceful, like a river flowing with clear direction. As they neared the town, the riders slowed and organized themselves into a neat line. The townspeople stepped back, forming a wide open space. Everything fell silent. The only sound was the soft rhythm of hooves settling into the dust. Cole watched, his heart beating a little faster. He sensed something important was about to happen. The line of riders parted slowly, creating a path in the middle. Someone began riding forward, their posture straight and graceful. The rider approached the front of the group and stopped only a few steps away from Cole and the townsfolk. She dismounted in one smooth motion. Her presence was calm, steady, and full of quiet confidence. She wore traditional woven garments with patterns that reflected both beauty and meaning. Her hair was neatly braided, and her eyes held wisdom far beyond her years. Cole's breath caught in his chest. He knew those eyes. The woman looked at him for a long moment, studying his face, recognizing the man who once helped her when she was a frightened child. "Nayeli," Cole whispered, barely loud enough for anyone else to hear. Her expression softened. She stepped forward and spoke gently, her voice filled with respect. "Cole Harding," she said, her tone steady. "You cared for me when I had no one. I remember your kindness." Gasps rippled through the crowd. No one had expected their strong, admired leader to know a simple cowboy by name. Cole swallowed hard, unable to speak for a moment. He hadn't heard her voice in 15 years, but now it sounded both familiar and new, gentle like before, but with a calm strength that came from experience and learning. "You've grown," Cole finally said, a soft smile forming. Nayeli nodded. "Yes, and they found me." She turned slightly, gesturing toward the riders behind her. "They are here in peace. We wish only to pass through safely and to speak about something important." The townsfolk exchanged looks. Some seemed surprised, others relieved. Nayeli's voice carried no anger, no threat, only sincerity. Cole stepped forward, wanting to make her feel welcome. "We're glad to hear that. What brings you here?" Nayeli looked at him with appreciation before addressing everyone around. "There have been troubles near the borders of our lands. A group has been moving between towns and villages, causing confusion and taking things they should not take. Many misunderstandings have happened because of them." The townspeople listened closely. "We came to share what we know," Nayeli continued, "so that people on both sides can understand the truth. We believe peace can be protected if we speak openly and work together." Her words were steady and honest. People around her relaxed a little, the tension leaving their shoulders. Someone whispered, "She speaks with such calm." Another said, "She doesn't seem angry at all." Nayeli turned back to Cole, her expression warm. "I returned because I remember your kindness. And because trust begins with those who once showed care, without expecting anything in return." Cole felt a deep sense of humility. He never thought his small act so many years ago would matter so much. "You didn't have to remember me," he said softly. Nayeli offered a gentle smile. "Kindness is not something a person forgets." She looked around at the townsfolk. "My people stand with me today not to scare you, but to show unity. When we come together with calm hearts, fear becomes smaller." Cole could see how both groups, townspeople and Apache riders, watched each other with new eyes. Not distrust, but curiosity. Not worry, but interest. Nayeli continued speaking, sharing news about the troublemakers who had been moving across the region. She explained that they had confused travelers and created misunderstandings, making it seem like problems were coming from one side or the other. Her words helped clear doubts that had been growing quietly between communities. The townsfolk began asking gentle questions, and Nayeli answered them patiently. Some of the Apache riders stepped forward too, offering respectful nods and calm expressions that helped ease the atmosphere even more. Slowly, the fear that had filled the town just an hour earlier began to fade away. Instead, there was understanding, soft, but growing. Cole watched Nayeli speaking confidently, guiding conversations, calming people, and showing wisdom far beyond her age. Pride bloomed in his heart, not because he had done something great, but because he had witnessed her journey from a quiet, lost child to a thoughtful, respected leader. When the sun began to lower, casting long golden shadows across the ground, the Apache riders settled at the edge of town to rest. The townsfolk offered water, blankets, and simple food, and the riders shared small gifts in return: woven bands, carved wooden pieces, and gentle smiles. Nayeli walked over to Cole as the evening breeze grew cooler. They stood side by side, watching the sky turn shades of orange and pink. "You've changed the way people think today," Cole said quietly. Nayeli looked at him with warm eyes. "I only did what I believed was right. But I could not have walked this path without the kindness you once showed me." Ian paused first. Cole touched the bracelet she had left him years ago, the same one he still kept carefully. "Your journey. It's remarkable. I'm honored to see who you've become." Nayeli smiled softly. "And I am grateful to meet the person who helped me take my first step toward it." The town was calm now. The riders were calm. And Cole felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Hope that peace could grow even in uncertain times. Hope that people could understand one another. Hope that old kindness could blossom into new beginnings. And he knew that tomorrow would bring even more change, good change. The night after Nayeli and her people arrived was calm and peaceful. The stars shone brightly above the town, and a cool wind moved gently through the trees. The townsfolk rested with lighter hearts, no longer worried or unsure. The Apache riders, too, settled comfortably near their camp, speaking softly among themselves and preparing for the journey ahead. Everyone felt safer now, knowing that they understood each other better. Cole sat outside on the porch of his small ranch house, thinking about everything that had happened in the past 2 days. The memory of first finding Nayeli as a frightened child was still fresh in his mind, even though so many years had passed. He remembered the small girl who whispered her name shyly and helped Martha in the kitchen. He remembered the night she disappeared and the worry that followed. And now, here she was grown, graceful, wise, and leading her people with calm strength. He never expected their paths to cross again. But life, he realized, always found surprising ways to bring important people back into our lives. As he sat thinking, he saw a soft glow of lantern light approaching from the distance. The figure walking toward his house moved with an easy grace he immediately recognized. It was Nayeli. Cole stood up as she reached the porch steps. The night air was cool, and the soft rustling of leaves filled the silence. "Couldn't sleep?" Cole asked kindly. Nayeli smiled in a warm, gentle way. "I wanted to speak with you before the morning comes." Cole stepped aside and gestured for her to sit. They settled on the wooden bench, watching the moon slowly rise above the hills. For a few moments, they didn't speak. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence, more like two people sharing a calm understanding. Nayeli finally turned to him. "Today was important," she said quietly. "For my people, and for your town. When minds open, peace becomes possible." Cole nodded. "You did something special today, Nayeli. You helped people see clearly." She looked down at her hands, which were resting gently on her lap. "I learned something long ago, when I was still a child. Kindness can change the direction of a person's life. It can become a guide when the world feels confusing." Cole's heart softened at her words. He understood she was speaking about the help he once gave her. "I didn't do much," he said humbly. "You were just a child who needed safety." "You did more than you think," she replied softly. "Because kindness stays with a person. It becomes part of who they are." Her voice carried gratitude so deep and sincere that Cole felt his chest grow warm. He had lived many quiet years thinking his help had been forgotten. Now he realized it had shaped something far bigger than he ever imagined. Nayeli looked out toward the Apache camp in the distance. The lanterns flickered softly, glowing like tiny stars on the ground. "My people trust me," she continued. "But I learned trust from you. When I had nothing, you gave me care. When I was scared, you gave me calm. When I felt alone, you gave me safety." Cole listened silently, touched beyond words. "Because of that," Nayeli added gently, "I learned how to offer the same to others." Cole felt a deep sense of pride, not pride in himself, but pride for who she had become. He saw before him not only a strong leader but a kind-hearted woman who led with fairness and understanding. Nayeli turned back to him, her expression thoughtful. "There is something else I want to share," she said. Cole waited patiently. "My people and the nearby communities have lived side by side for many years," she explained. "But often, we stayed separate because we were unsure of each other. Today, I felt something new, something hopeful. Your town welcomed us with respect. My people felt safe here. This is the beginning of something better. Cole nodded. I saw that too. Nayeli's eyes softened. I want to build a path where our communities can visit, trade, teach, and learn from one another. A path where children from both sides grow up understanding, not fearing. That sounds like a wonderful idea, Cole said sincerely. It will take time, she added. But every great change begins with a small step. Cole smiled. And today, you took that step. Nayeli seemed pleased by his words. She inhaled deeply, letting the cool night wind brush across her face. I also want to thank the people who once helped me, she said. Martha and Ben. They were kind to me, though they knew nothing about me. They still think about you, Cole replied. Nayeli nodded slowly. Tomorrow morning, before my people move again, I wish to visit them. I want to tell them how grateful I am. They will be happy to see you, Cole assured her. For a moment, they simply sat together, sharing the peaceful silence. The moon rose higher, painting silver light across the land. It felt like the night itself was blessing this reunion. After a long pause, Nayeli spoke again softly, thoughtfully. When I was a child, I used to wonder why I had been found by you, of all people. Why my path crossed yours. I used to think it was chance, but now, I think life always brings us the people we need. Exactly when we need them. Cole looked down, moved by her words. Maybe it works the other way too, he said quietly. Maybe we're also brought to the people who will teach us things we didn't know we needed to learn. Nayeli smiled warmly. Perhaps it is true for both of us. There was a gentle comfort in that thought, something that felt right and true without needing an explanation. As the night grew deeper, Nayeli stood up. I should return to my people, she said softly. We will rest and begin moving again after sunrise. Cole stood too. If you ever need anything on your journey, he said, you know where to find me. Nayeli looked at him with grateful eyes. I know. And if you ever need a friend or guidance, you know where to find me too. Their eyes held each other's for a long moment. It was not a moment of confusion or tension, but a moment of deep understanding, one formed from years of separation and a bond that had quietly survived time. She stepped off the porch and began walking back toward the camp. Cole watched her until she blended into the warm glow of lantern light. He felt a strange but comforting sense of peace, something hopeful, something new. Morning arrived with a soft golden glow. The Apache riders prepared their horses, loading supplies and checking their path. The townsfolk gathered nearby, offering water and warm wishes for their journey. The atmosphere was friendly, full of smiles and gentle nods. Nayeli visited Martha and Ben before leaving. The reunion was emotional in a gentle way, full of warm smiles and grateful words. Martha hugged her like a daughter returning home, and Ben shook her hand proudly, telling her she had become everything they hoped for. When Nayeli rode at the front of her people again, ready to continue her journey, she looked back at Cole one last time. He stood near the edge of town, his hat tilted slightly as he watched her with a steady smile. Nayeli lifted her hand in a respectful gesture, one that carried thanks, respect, and a quiet promise that their paths would cross again. Cole lifted his hand in return. The riders moved forward in a calm, steady line. The dust rose behind them as they followed the winding trail into the distance. But this time, the dust didn't feel mysterious or worrying. It felt like the beginning of a beautiful new chapter, one where understanding, friendship, and cooperation would grow stronger across the land. Cole watched them until they disappeared over the horizon. Only then did he turn back toward his ranch, feeling different inside, lighter, hopeful, and grateful for the unexpected journey life had given him. The land was quiet again, but it no longer felt lonely. Somewhere out there, Nayeli continued her path, leading with kindness, carrying wisdom, and shaping a better future. And Cole knew he had been a small part of that journey, just as she had become an important part of his. Some people come into our lives for a short moment. Others leave an impact that lasts a lifetime. Nayeli was the latter, someone whose return changed everything for the better. And Cole would always carry that truth gently in his heart.